There is new research showing that diet can help MS symptoms. Yes, what we eat really does matter. In today's video, I'm going to share what the new research says and how we can incorporate changes into our diet so that we can add more variety of healthy foods to our plates to help us reduce our symptoms and some tools to help us get there. Sound good? Hello, my dear friends, and welcome. In June of 2023, a new study was released on dietary patterns and symptom levels in people with MS. I'm going to jump right to the conclusion of this new study. The results suggest less symptom burden with increased intake of vegetables, and the results indicate that general guidelines for healthy diet may be relevant as a tool in coping with MS symptoms. Who wants more tools in our toolbox to deal with symptoms? Anyone? In the study, they talk about how many of us do self-care activities to try to cope with our symptoms, and that diet is often one of the things we try to adjust to help. They also talk about how many of us try swank, walls, gelinics, anti-inflammatory, vegetarian, and ketogenic diets, but that most of the patient-experienced benefits are anecdotal and non-systematized. They lack concrete evidence to prove that these dietary changes help. Yeah, it's a challenge for some of us and our doctors to get on board when the studies show only anecdotal evidence. This study also highlighted that some of the previous studies on diet focused on specific nutrients, such as sodium intake, vitamin D, or specific fatty acids, and the results were sometimes conflicting. Yeah, that's not good. It went on to say some case control studies suggested that diet may help with symptom severity, but others were not able to confirm that. And that the studies had methodological challenges. They weren't able to present good data for various reasons, including recall bias of participants, cognitive or fatigue impairments affecting participants' ability to participate, participants having others in the home that affected the food choices, or participants not being able to maintain a diet for a long enough period of time to get good data and good results. In this study, they hope to take the current data and supplement it with systematically collected real-world observational data on food intake and MS-related symptoms over a significant period of time. An excellent goal, right? The objective of the study was to investigate long-term food intake patterns and establish possible associations between inferred dietary habits and levels of reported symptoms among people with multiple sclerosis. They explored the dietary patterns of people with MS and looked for associations with those patterns and levels of MS symptoms. They didn't tell the participants what to eat, and they didn't focus on only one part of the diet, such as sodium or vitamin D. They asked the participants to tell them what they ate and how they felt. Then they analyzed the results. They used statistical analysis on the data collected. Statistical analysis is the process of collecting and analyzing data to identify patterns and trends. It helps to remove bias so that informed decisions can be made. The participants reported the food that they ate and rated 9 different MS symptoms, including fatigue, pain, spasticity, muscle weakness, walking difficulty, dizziness, sensory disturbances, bladder problems, and bowel problems. What makes this paper different from previous studies, in my opinion, is that the researchers did due diligence and statistical analysis on the data. And as always, I will link the study below if you would like to read it. In their analysis, they found 3 dietary clusters. Western dietary cluster, including elevated intake of red meat and processed meat products. Plant-rich dietary cluster, with elevated intake of vegetables, vegetable oil, and fruit. And a varied dietary cluster that included the elevated intake of dairy products and where they were kind of in the middle when it came to meat and veggies. They found that the plant-rich dietary cluster showed a reduction in symptom burden in all 9 symptoms compared to the Western dietary cluster, between 19 and 90% reduction. This reduction was significant for pain and bladder dysfunction, as well as all 9 symptoms. That is huge. Let me say it again. The reduction was significant for pain and bladder dysfunction, as well as across all 9 symptoms. But they didn't stop there. They also assessed the data using a different method for comparison, and again, it showed a high intake of vegetables still resulting in 32 to 74% reduction in symptom burden compared to low levels of vegetable intake. These are mind-blowing numbers. Would you like to reduce your symptoms by 32 to 74% or more? It turns out our moms were right when they told us to eat our vegetables. And this study, like many before it on diet and MS, are observational studies, and it's very difficult to prove causation. It can't be double-blind because people know what they're eating, and there really can't be a control group as it would be unethical to knowingly feed people food that would cause them harm. And there's always going to be some bias from the participants. But this study is different from others as they used inverse probability weighting, thereby providing estimates that are controlled for potential confounding among dietary clustered members and observed background variables. They used cool math to ensure the results took out the bias and background factors. So, what do we take from this study? Number one, the highly inflammatory Western diet is a problem for people with MS or autoimmune diseases. It can have a negative effect on our symptoms. Number two, diets higher in fruits and vegetables may reduce our symptoms by a lot. Before I share my tips on how to increase fruit and vegetable intake, could you do me a favor and hit the like button and subscribe? This is important because the YouTube algorithm keeps track of things like this, and it will help this channel and help others to find it if you could do this. Thanks so much. So, how do we increase our fruit and vegetable intake? Here are my tips on how to increase fruits and vegetables into our diets. First, add a large salad to our menu every day. I typically have a large salad every day for lunch. It usually has 5 to 10 kinds of raw veggies or fruits, mixed greens, and beans, soy, or tempeh. It is filling and full of antioxidants and fiber to keep our guts and microbiome happy, therefore keeping inflammation down. Second, follow Kaiser Permanente's recommendation for a plant-based diet using the plate method of filling half our plate with non-starchy vegetables, 1/4 of our plate with a starchy vegetable, and 1/4 of our plate with plant-based protein. I like how simple this advice is, and it's easy to visualize and follow. 1/2, 1/4, 1/4. They have a wonderful brochure that has lists of foods, gorgeous photos, sample menus, and great information on the benefits of a plant-based diet, and I will link it in the description below. Third, experiment with new fruits and vegetables. There are over 20,000 kinds of edible plants out there. Take a look around the produce section and add new foods to your cart each week. Or go to the local farmer's market and try to buy foods that you've not tried before. The farmers are a wealth of knowledge and love to talk about the crops they grow and how to eat them. Fourth, what gets measured gets managed. To help us get in the habit of adding more fruits and veggies to our diet, we need to track how many we are consuming. We need to know where we're at now so we can improve. We can use programs like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer, which I will link in the description below, or something as simple as writing down what we eat so we can see what we're eating at the end of each day. When we write it down, it gives us the ability to really see how we are doing and where we can make improvements from there. A confession, if you haven't realized it yet, I'm kind of a data geek. I love to see numbers and charts and trends. I created a super simple food journal spreadsheet to help me count the number of fruits and vegetables, grains, and proteins that I'm getting each day. It's not exact. I don't measure and I don't count calories. I just estimate how many servings of each category I'm getting at each meal. This gives me an idea of how I'm doing with my food intake each day. and I will link it below if you'd like to try it out too. Bonus tip, try to eat 30 different kinds of plants a week. Having a large variety of plants in our diets is incredibly good for us. One of the many benefits of feeding our guts a large diversity of fibers is that the trillions of microbes in our guts all get to eat when they like to be happy. And a happy gut microbiome can lead to less inflammation, and less inflammation can lead to happy oligodendrocytes. You know, those lovely little myelin-producing cells, and could possibly, just maybe, help with myelin repair. Will you try to increase your fruit and vegetable intake knowing what this study shows? Let me know in the comments below. To see more on what I eat to stay healthy, check out these videos next. Please like, subscribe, and sign up for my newsletter. Until next time, be well.